Hello, good evening. Happy Friday. It is me on time, dare I say. Could I possibly have actually hit the start button? Maybe 30 seconds early. I'm checking the chat. I don't even know if I'm live streaming. Nobody's even said hello to me yet. But I'm going to go on as if I am, and then I will feel foolish later when it turns out that no one has seen anything that I've said right now. Okay, so I don't know if you are somewhere in the world where you could be watching this live stream of the lunar eclipse. I would suggest that you promptly turn off watching me right now and go outside. I don't know, whatever the appropriate way to watch this is, please go and do that. I guess this is an image from the Baraket Observatory. I do not know where that is in the world. Somebody I'm sure will inform me rather quickly. Bruno asks, by the way, Schiffman, did you adjust the green screen filter back? Why, yes, I did. I did adjust the green screen filter back, and I thought to myself this morning, let me not wear, even though that's my new favorite shirt, it's like blue, it's got a flamingo on it, I mean, everything about that shirt I love. I decided to put on this shirt, which is, admittedly my second favorite shirt due to the flowery nature of it. But looking over here on my preview monitor where I see myself, I'm a little bit worried about the video compression, YouTube compression algorithm thing. And it's possible, I am safe, I am wearing a safe, as you know, I am the kind of person who wears a t-shirt under the shirt that has been firmly established. But I am wearing a t-shirt that can be shown on video today. It is in fact a Google Summer of Code 2017 t-shirt. Wait a second. I am also well prepared today with a few other, we were talking about wardrobe. Let's see if this camera's working. Good, this camera's working. I have something really, shocking. This is like shocking. Sit down right now. If you're standing, actually standing is probably a good thing. Stretching is good. Don't sit for too long, don't stand for too long. Move around a lot. That's my advice in general. But now you might want to sit down. I'm going to show you something insane. I have never done this before. Never worn this before on a live stream. Shorts! I'm wearing shorts! It is very hot in New York City. Actually, if you were in New York City right now, I'm going to go out. I don't think you can hear it in here, unfortunately. I was in the hallway a moment ago. There's massive thunder. I got like the alerts on my phone, flash flood warning. So let's see if we can see how the storm is right now. You can hopefully hear my audio. Can I open this window for a second to give you some audio of the storm? No. How about this window? No. What if I unlock it? Yes. Okay, I'm not going to be able to open these windows. You can't hear. There was like incredible thunder. Anyway, so yes. Shorts, what was I saying? Yeah. All right, so, oh yes, heat wave. Some of you are experiencing quite a heat wave. It's not a super heat wave here in New York, but it is quite warm, although now it is pouring rain. Okay, so, how are you? What's new? The lunar eclipse. I'll put the lunar eclipse away. I'm tempted to do the whole thing and the rocket launch thing, and I make myself small, and I'm standing on top of the lunar thing, and blah, blah, blah. But I think I shall put it away for now. I was going to talk about red burns. I have some things open. Oh, right. Also, all the things I forgot to talk about. I am here with my Space Melon. I went to a different Shoppe, that's spelled S-H-O-P-P-E, which is the way I like to spell Shoppe, where I purchased some of this delicious magic Space Melon. This stick is getting really old. It's no longer any good. That's good stuff. It's soothing, it's cool. It's low acid. Wonderful. Why am I here? I forgot. Coding train. That was a very pathetic train whistle. is, by the way, I have a timpani sound effect that apparently is 27 seconds long. I can barely hear it. I don't know if you can hear it. You can turn it up. It's much louder now. And then eventually it gets to the end. 5, 4, 3. Coding Train. Coding Train is a weekly and at the moment Friday evening, probably next Friday evening as well, New York City time that is, YouTube live stream where I do, I waste a lot of time and sometimes do some coding. Today I have an exciting JavaScript library project that I am planning to spend most of today's live stream talking about. It is called ml5. I have definitely talked about it before. I have an idea for a coding challenge that I would like to do, but first I must thank our sponsor. Coding Train is sponsored by water. You know, when that melon, that high pH, that low acid melon that you were crunching on, and it was so delicious, and you're just like chewing up and swallowing it, and then that little piece gets stuck in your throat. Well, that's when you need to reach for your water. Water, it is liquid, and when you drink it, it helps to, it's still stuck in my throat. It helps to wash that piece of melon down. Okay. These are the things that I should really prepare for these live streams, which I don't. I really should, but I don't. But even so, I really want to get some new sound effects. All right. 94 degree. I'm going to look at the chat. Oh, I got a new sponsor. That means, I wonder if my family is at home. That means the lights flashed. Maybe I'll get a text message. Let's see. Welcome, Cryptic. Thank you, Cryptic, for sponsoring the channel. Better hurry before the power goes out. Interesting. So I am in a large institutional building. And I have never known the power to go out here. Of course, it did back during Hurricane Sandy, which was quite an extreme storm in New York City. But we'll see if the power goes out, you'll know, because there's nothing about what I'm doing that does not need power. Is that the right double negative? It all needs power. The moment the power goes out, this live stream will end. And then I'll get to go home early on a Friday. This is a special weekend for me. Let's see if anybody in the chat can figure out, oh, Simon. Sorry, I'm so easily distracted. This is a problem with me and my live streaming. But Simon I assume that's a photo that Simon just took, posted in the sponsor Patreon. Actually, YouTube's changing the name sponsor to member soon. Slack channel. That's a wonderful photo of the eclipse. I wish I was there to see it. I hope that all of you, especially in Europe, who are having heat waves and lack of rain, you get some water soon. I don't think it goes that direction exactly, but I'm going to try to send the rain to you from here. All right. So I'm just checking the chat for a minute. All right, so I wonder if there's any new people here today. If there's anybody new here today, I'm sure you left already, because why would you still be here after all my nonsense? This stream I'm hoping will be really well suited for total beginners. I'm doing things, I've done things a little bit backwards because I'm learning stuff and trying different things. So I am, looking at ML5 as a library, I am sort of going back in time. I've done a lot of videos and tutorials that go not all the way in depth, but somewhat in depth into machine learning topics such as neural networks and even lower level machine learning libraries like TensorFlow.js. And that's helped me, hopefully, build a background of knowledge to be able to do what I want to do today, which is present a very beginner-friendly machine learning library that lives on the surface, hiding a lot of the lower level details. That has its pros and its cons, of course, but with the idea that anybody who watches the tutorials that I produce today could be a beginner, and completely new to machine learning and follow along and to the extent that anybody ever learned anything from watching me, learn something. So that's my main goal for today. I think I will start with that. I have a coding challenge that I would like to do, which is animated sprite. I don't even think it's something anybody ever suggested, but it came up in a meeting I was having yesterday, and it was I made an example of this years ago, and it kind of comes up a lot, so I thought it'd be useful to make a video about it. Toothless DS, because I'm just all about the sponsor. You can sponsor the Coding Train. That's the official Coding Train sponsor theme song. Toothless DS asks how to become a sponsor. It's like a YouTube thing. You have to pay, which you don't have to, please. No one is under any obligation whatsoever. But if you want, I'm here. I'll take it. I got it. Nobody guessed the special quality of this weekend. I'll reveal it at the end of the live stream. I think this was splashed on me. Okay, what's going on? The coffee is attacking me. And by the way, I know I do not normally drink coffee on a Friday evening. This is a one-time thing. It's a very light bit of coffee, a lot of unsweetened almond milk in there, organic. Not made from scratch. You know you can make your own almond milk very easily. You go to the grocery store, they're really expensive. They put all this stuff in it. Do you know what you need to make almond milk? Almonds and, wow, what synergy. Coding Train, brought to you by water. Okay. Austin Fish asks, is it the anniversary of your bike accident? That is a great guess. It is not. The bike accident I had last summer, which left me with this beautiful scar on my elbow and the inability to straighten my right arm all the way, and like all sorts of interesting titanium stuff that's in here. That was, I believe, June 27th. Good guess, though. All right, so is it an Irish coffee? No, but there will be. I like to have a beer every once in a while. Not that often. That might be happening after the live stream if I can make it home in the torrential flooding of New York City. Rostel asks, first weekend in the new apartment. Nope, good guess. Good guess. I did move. Not the first weekend in the new apartment, but good guess. Good guess. Good guess. All right, so let's see here. I guess what I'm going to do now is, Phobos Gaming asks, I should say, is there a way to access the Slack channel without paying anything? It pains me to even read that question. I did have the option, I suppose, of not seeing, or pretending I didn't see it. I did see it. Phobos Gaming got it right, by the way. Yes. Phobos Gaming did get it correct. That is the correct answer. I was answering Phobos Gaming. I feel like, very, very good, very good. Good guess. I was answering the Slack channel thing. At the moment, the system that I have, it's not the best, is that the way I'm funding some of the work that I'm doing, as well as creating a smaller community to discuss topics and ask questions, is through crowdfunding. There are plenty of not unofficial, but there are plenty of ways to write comments or join conversations on Twitter. I'm going to set up a Discord, I believe, for the Coding Train, and I'm open to suggestions and ideas because I do not love the idea of having this sort of like closed community, but that's the way it is at the moment. Has the sun in the background got a name? Asks Python++. Thank you for your super chat donation. And by the way, when I look on my monitor over there and I move my arm like this, the flower shirt starts to like flicker like crazy. But maybe you don't actually see that in the live stream. Simon writes, I'm actually watching this live stream outside to watch the lunar eclipse. I hope, Simon, that your eyes are mostly focused on the lunar eclipse because I will be live streaming again next week. Maybe I won't wear this shirt. It's exciting. Also, this is being recorded and you can watch it later. And the lunar eclipse is really a once in a, I mean, hopefully not a once in a lifetime, is it? I don't know when the next one is. Okay, so Karam Hagi asks, what do we need? There was that super chat question. Did I answer it? Is the sun background got a name? No, it does not. But I do want to make that an emoji for sponsors. Is there? There was a good question there. It was something about what do you need? Okay, so if you're going to follow along live with me today, you're going to need, you could go and look at my workflow video. I know my workflow is a little out of date, and you can register your complaints at the Office of IDE Complaints. It's down the street, Lower Manhattan, next to the courthouse. But if you're going to follow along, I will explain in the video tutorial what you need, but just to give you an advance, you're going to want a text editor. You're probably going to want to run a local server on your computer. A lot of text editors will come with a local server. I have been using the Node local server more recently. And then you will need a browser. And everything else is, and then you'll probably want to grab one of my recent code examples that just has like the P5 library imported into it. And, if you just take any of my coding challenges and kind of like the Recomon one from last week, that's what I want to do. Forgot about that. The Recomon one from last week, grab that code, open it up, delete out the stuff from sketch.js. You'll be ready to go. Okay. So before I get started with ml5.js, let's go to twitter.com/#codingrecomon. This one didn't catch fire, so to speak, like others have, but we can see some versions that people made. This one by @NellisDrost was also inspired by the same Numberphile video, so created this last month. So this is actually, a lot of people made their own visualizations of the number sequence before I even did. I love this sort of like the 3D quality of this, the spiral nature, that's beautiful. As requested, writes Marco, here is the best version I imagined. I believe it's beautiful. I would agree. I think it's beautiful. And we can see here, this is one of the challenges that I posed to the viewer to animate the arcs themselves. So you can see this has been successfully done. So the arcs don't just stamp on there, but they animate. This is mine. This is from Madeline Dahlberg. Let's click on the link and go look here. Openprocessing.org, wonderful site to do your coding. Click on the screen, then enter a number. So let's do 7. Great. And so it looks like what this is, you can enter a number, we see the number sequence, and we see how much is there. So what happens if I were to enter something really, really big, like 1,000? Wow, cool. So I guess that's 1,000 numbers, is it? I wonder if there's a maximum. That doesn't seem like 1,000 numbers. Is it that maybe it goes up to 1,000? That's the highest number. But anyway, I love the interactivity of this. Great work, Madeline. Now I am going to look at this. I like these that just like try a different visual idea. Some straight lines from Arth on Twitter. Audio visual in C major. Okay, we've got to listen to this. Okay, I don't know how well you can hear that. It's nice. So I assume here the difference between what I did, first of all, in terms of thinking about how to design the quality of the sound in terms of the configuration of the envelope, also there's actually applying C major scale here. And we get some slightly more musical quality out of it. Audio visual representation. I should really hook up the sound. It'll just take me a second. I don't know why I'm being so. If I go here and then I click on multi-output device, the sound goes through. This is nice. I like being able to see, the things I like about this, I love being able to see the number. I love seeing like where we are in the sequence. Mine was kind of interesting in how it was like scaling automatically, but I do love, I like that it's fixed here as well. This is really nice. Great work by Tom Fevrier. Learned a new name today, Recommon. The Coding Recommon Challenge. Here's one. Some nice use of color. This is actually really nice. One of the things that's a sort of failing of mine is that it looks like there's so many circles because the arcs get so close to each other on the top and the bottom. But if you alter the color, you can see the more spiral nature of it. So that's nice work. And then there's this one from Ahmad. And I like this. I like being able to see the number line. So including the number line actually there is a nice visual addition to this, I think. Great work, everybody. So in addition, you can still post your versions of the Recommon coding challenge to #CodingRecommon on Twitter. You can tag me at Schiffman. It helps me find it. I don't necessarily just check the hashtag. But also I will, let's see, I think there's at least one. If I go to thecodingtrain.com, and then I go to Coding Challenges, and right here to Recommon Sequence, and I go here. This is also a place, the Twitter stuff is sort of nice, and in theory it might be there, if, still next week. But this is a place where you can also add your own community contribution through a pull request on GitHub. There are some instructions here if you click on See How. We can see one. And what's nice about this is you can include your source code plus information about you and your version. So let's look at animated arc. And here we go. And this one, I love this. Mwah, beautiful. Round of applause for putting it on CodePen. So it's nice to see this on CodePen. And this really is, we've got this animated arc there. It's wonderful. Wonderful work, everybody. Okay, so this is one of the things I enjoy the most. One of the things I really enjoy about my week is getting to check out the versions of things that people make for what I made. Okay. I think now we are ready for ml5.js. I must have a piece of melon. I'm going to investigate the chat for a minute. Oh, there's Josek W is in the chat. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. If anybody wants to phonetically spell it for me. That would be helpful. Burger Bob is asking, what about changing your workflow this stream? A shout out to Austin from the patron group who has really been so kind and understanding because he's made many good points about things that I could do to upgrade my workflow to make things actually make things easier for me. And I kind of have a bit of a mental block with this stuff, and I tend to not get to it. Keep me honest, folks, viewers out there. Let's see if I can schedule a specific live stream dedicated only to that sometime before the start of the fall semester, which is the day after Labor Day here in New York City, in Labor Day holiday in the United States. September 4th, 5th, something like that. So bug me about it. Tweet me, YouTube comment me. I think the only way I'm going to do it is if I schedule it as a specific dedicated live stream. Otherwise, it's just going to be the thing I would say like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to that today, but first let me do these things. I'll never get to it. It'll be at the bottom of the list. Simon is writing, artists color in the gaps of the pattern and then it becomes more colorful. Yeah, so if you watch the number file video, there is a particular artist who has made kind of coloring pages out of the Recommon number sequence and filled in, and they're beautiful. I encourage you to go check that out. And it's interesting to think, is there a way to do that through processing or HTML5 canvas and P5 would be an interesting challenge, although I love the hand-drawn quality of that stuff. Okay, processing 3.4 released. That's another thing that's worth. Let's take a look. Where are those release notes? So there is a new processing, and I just think it's worth showing this because I think if I go here, I think the release notes, let's go to releases. Yes, they're here. So this is something, by the way, if you're not in the habit of reading, if you're like a processing user and you're really interested in what's new, what's fixed, following the development of it, I highly recommend always reading these release notes whenever, and a version like 3.4 means a bit more significant changes than just going from like 3.3.7 to 3.3.8. This has to do with something called semantic versioning. It's a numbering system. If it was version 4.0, we'd all be, opening bottles of champagne and shooting confetti cannons into the air and just like dancing like it's, like we're so, whatever, dancing-y. But this is just and if it was like 3.3.8 from 3.3.7, we would, But this, 3.4, coding train whistle for processing. 3.4. All right, huge batch of bug fixes and updates, a bunch of things for Windows, better handling in the contributions manager for sites that use HTTPS. I think actually this broke, I think some of my libraries and example bundles are broken currently because of that. Maybe they've been fixed or I need to do something. Alternate error message on Windows, new features. It's possible to make your own theme file for processing. Whoa! That is cool. That is really cool. Copy the theme.txt file from inside the processing folder to your sketchbook and edit away. For instance, to make a dark theme, there's this link here, which I would love to go look at. I kind of want to just do all this stuff today, but I won't. It's possible to copy the text of the status bar. That's wonderful. That's super useful. PYDE is a supported extension, so double-clicking Python sketches will launch the PDE. Oh, wow. They added double and long versions of the data classes. Ooh, that's a little bit. I don't know about that. Double. I don't like the doubles and the longs. They're scary. Very scary. Internal sort. Fix the welcome dialog, redesign the rename window. I kind of want to look at all this stuff. Rewrite request image, now uses a new version of Java, updated the copyright and year in launch and about string. And then, here we go. Give Go High, otherwise known as Gottfried, a hand. Because there are a lot of new things in the Raspberry Pi version of processing. Guess what? I have a project I really want to do. Sorry, I can't figure out, the camera went off. And it relates to what Ava in the chat just asked. Will you ever do some Arduino stuff? I do want to do some Raspberry Pi stuff. And one of the things I really want to do is, I moved to a new apartment, and one of the ways that I can, well, when I was taking my son to camp, there were like 2 buses we could take. But you had to go, like you couldn't go to one stop and wait for both of them. And the MCA has this like bus time app. So I can like check and see where the buses are. And we could say, oh, this one's here, this one's here. So we could kind of like figure out which bus to go to. But if you actually just go to like the bus station or now in the subways, they have these like boards that show the next train, the time. I would like to build one of those for my apartment that just like I can configure it, just these 2 bus routes and these 2 subway routes. I want to see like when all the next trains and all the next buses are in order in one display. And so the one thing I don't know, I should have checked this before mentioning that, is does the MTA provide that real-time data through an API? I know that they publish the schedules, but the schedules is very different than the actual real-time data. So if they don't publish that real-time data, I think through an official API, I think I can't make this project. But if they do, I certainly can. And I would. The reason why I was thinking this is like me dipping a toe into physical computing, because I would love to just make a little, get one of those inexpensive, I assume they're inexpensive, like LED, but I don't know what those things are called. Those displays that just show like a certain number of characters in those little grids of little dots. Has a name, probably. I would love to get one of those flipboard things. Wouldn't that be amazing to build a flipboard? But there's no chance I'm ever gonna manage to do that. So, Melon Goggles writes, Dan, I don't want to be mean, but you have been streaming for 30 minutes without telling us anything about the actual subject. Okay, that's a very good point. A tiny quibble, little quibble. I mean, I did mention what the topic was going to be. So 7-segment display, writes Austin Fish. So much stuff is going on. I can't process all this. Now I'm getting information about how to pronounce. For 30 minutes without
following pronunciation
Oh my God, I can't play that right now. That is no good. That is no good. ML5, all right. People are so excited about ML5. Let's do it. Apologies. So, yeah, okay. So just give me like a couple minutes. I'm gonna do ML5 next. I'm gonna cycle the cameras. I have to say, if you really, I might recommend waiting for the edited version of the videos. But a lot of you are here and you came. I did advertise this as ML5, so let me get that going. All right. So let's think about this. Okay. This would be good if I prepared. Wouldn't it be good if I prepared? I think I can. I have a bit in my head what I want to talk. So this is going. All right. So I'm just going to begin. Hello! Welcome to a playlist of videos about machine learning. This is a playlist of videos about machine learning for hopefully you. Who are you? You could be anybody. You could be like watching this in the year 2067 from your recliner self-driving quadcopter, and you've taken your brain out of the thawing Hello and welcome to a new playlist of videos. This is a playlist, hopefully there's a bunch of videos in this playlist because I'm just starting to record them now so they don't exist yet. But this is about machine learning and it is for the total beginner. Now there's some caveats here I suppose to that, but I really wanted to make something you don't have to have watched any other videos about machine learning on my channel. I have others that go more in depth and use different tools. This is really meant if you're starting, it's totally new to you. You've heard the words machine learning, you type them into some, what is machine learning? Search bar, and somehow you landed here watching from the future, leaning back. You've taken your brain out for its afternoon thawing, and your gelatinous couch is comfortably supporting your skeletal. Anyway, the point is you're here, I'm here, hello. So I'm going to be using for this set of tutorials a pretty new JavaScript library called ml5. The purpose of this first video in the series is really just to talk about two things. What is machine learning? What is ML5? So the one caveat, I would say possibly, to being a beginner here is that you probably want to have some knowledge and experience with coding itself. Now, that isn't to say that you aren't, if you don't, you're welcome here. Please watch. I will point you to other videos that can help you fill in some missing gaps, but I'm going to assume a little bit of knowledge about programming, particularly in JavaScript, and I'm also going to be making fairly heavy use of another JavaScript library called P5. So if P5 is new to you, I'll refer you to some other P5 tutorials. I will, but that's going to be a large piece of how I build various examples throughout all these videos. Pause for a second. I've made that brain joke before, apparently. It's like a thing that's always like floating in my head. I mean, I know, yeah, okay. Wait, this is the pause. I was gonna, yeah, okay, everybody. I know exactly what I want to do to talk about ML5, but I realize I don't really have in my head prepared a really nice, succinct 10,000 steps. Can you see that animation? You can't. It goes away, there you go. Definition of machine learning. I guess what I would consider is inputs, outputs, making sense of data, computer to perform a task, to learn to perform a task. Give me your in the chat, give me your one sentence definition of machine learning. You know what? I should just go to my, where is that? Oh, I had such momentum. I should never pause from the content. Where am I going? What am I looking for? These are some notes that I made. Yeah, oops. Right, field of study. This is the classic definition, Arthur Samuels. Machine. Make machines to learn. Make computers do my homework. What is a neural network? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is so interesting to see everybody's telling machines how to do stuff so you don't have to do it yourself. Yeah, that's actually good. That's a good idea. It's a form of artificial program designed to learn on its own. Yeah. These are all great. Wow, these are really good. Self-learning AI to make itself go to the best spot. All right, so I'm going to try to explain it in my own words now. Just give me a second here. Replying to messages. All right. So before I get into what is ML5, which is really the core, probably the core component of this video, let's just take a moment to ask ourselves the question, what is machine learning? Here's the thing. It's my hope that I don't need to define that right now, because the point of this set of tutorials is to kind of explore that question all along. What is machine learning? But we need a place to start from. And so one thing that's, I think, important to realize is that there are a lot of terms that you might have heard. One thing that I think is important to note is that there's a lot of terminology. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, neural networks, support vector machines, etc. I could keep going. What do all these things mean? Some are algorithms, some are topics of research. And so I think I'm really struggling with this. I'm really struggling with this. I'm going to go back to it. This is the stuff that I have the hardest time with, because I'm so petrified of saying something like sort of revealing myself to like really have no idea what I'm talking about, which has already been revealed many times. Okay, so before I start talking to you about what is ML5, which is really what I'm here to do, let's just ask ourselves the question, first of all, it's called ML5, ML for machine learning. What is machine learning? Now, there are lots of terminology out there. Machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, neural networks. The list goes on and on. And hopefully, the definition whatever I say to you right now doesn't really matter, because we're going to sort of explore this topic of machine learning and all this other terminology throughout these videos. But I think one thing to realize about machine learning, you think of this idea of artificial intelligence, computers, robots taking over the world, and they've learned their own language and they're defeating but really, when it comes down to it, brass tacks, so to speak, machine learning is examining some data, a whole lot of numbers, and trying to make sense of that data and teaching a computer basically to learn patterns that we can present. That's really and I'm talking about something called supervised learning here. Oh, even more terminology, supervised learning. Wait, I'm going to get into all that, and I've gotten into some of that in other videos. You know what would be good to look at? So I just pulled up some notes that I made for a course about artificial intelligence and at NYU here. And this is sort of the classic definition of machine learning from 1959. Arthur Samuels, a field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. And so let's think about that for a second. This is actually useful, and I'm going to get into ML5 in a second, but just humor me for a little bit longer, right? I might say something like even in the most simplistic sense, I could write a program that has a specific algorithm that says if mouse x is greater than, so let's say this window has a width between 0 and 400. If mouse x is greater than 200, then that is the right side. Can you see this? Yes. Greater than 200 is the right side. Else, if mouse x is less than 200, or just else, that's the left side. This is me providing the computer, so to speak. I've written a program with some intelligence. It knows how to tell if a point is on the right side or the left side of the window. I have written the algorithm for that. Well, machine learning is about teaching a system to understand a data without explicitly writing your own algorithm. This might be the most trivial, simplistic algorithm ever. But the way I would do machine learning is I would say, hey, machine learning system, I'm going to give you lots of information, like 350 is on the right side, and 301 is on the right side, and 212 is on the right side, and 273 is on the right side, and 100 is on the left side, and 97 is on the left side, and 24 is on the left side, and 198 is on the left side. I'm creating a data set. And I'm just going to say, here's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to tell you how to, I'm not going to give you some specific hard-coded algorithm to know what's on the right or the left. I'm just going to create a data set. It's going to have a lot of information in it, and the machine is going to learn the patterns in that data, learn how to make some kind of prediction. That's a key word here. The prediction being, is this point on the right or left, based on that data. This is the essence of machine learning. Teaching a computer to perform a task without explicitly programming the algorithm for that task. Now, it's a little convoluted because aren't we programming the machine learning algorithm and that sort of programming? But this is the conceptual idea. Okay. Let's see here. All right, oops, wrong camera. All right, so let's see here. Okay, back to here. Okay. All right. I don't know if I'm happy with that, but this, it is what it is. Siraj, who knows probably way more about any of this than I do, is in the chat. Hello, Siraj. Okay. So let's see here. Anybody want to offer any significant complaints about that sort of introductory idea? I am all ears. I'm sorry, I'm looking for my eraser. I can't find it because I need to erase it. All right. All right. This is the thing. When a lot of the stuff that I've done during the semester, like when NYU is actually in session, I usually will teach some sessions during the day or the day before, and then come and make the YouTube videos. So I've had a sense to sort of try to explain some stuff, and I've gotten some feedback, and people have asked questions, and I feel like I have a little bit more of my feet under me. Well, I think that's probably not true. I'm probably just as so I feel a little, but let's leave it at that. And I'm going to move on to where I'm a little bit more comfortable, which is talking about what is ML5. Oh yeah, Melon Goggles makes a really good point. The thing is, I can only remember these things when I'm here. I guess I could go to Amazon.com and buy a cloth right now. Melon Goggle says I should buy a cloth. What should I look for a cloth? Can someone just tweet me a link to like a cloth I should get? I'll buy it. I just can't remember it right now. All right. All right. Okay. Oops, I lost the chat here. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Here we go. Okay, so now that we've sort of, in vague terms, as best that I could, covered the very high level Okay, so now that we, as best as I could, made some definition, created a definition of machine learning, one that at least we can start with, and I'm sure I'll hear from you in the comments. Let's talk about what is ML5. So before I talk about what is ML5, I want to just mention someone to you, Red Burns, who is the founder of the program where I currently teach called ITP. Red Burns is a huge source of inspiration. She was a mentor to me, and I wanted to read a few quotes from her. Actually, I have a whole book of Red Burns quotes. But I think these quotes are really important, and they are the kind of driving principles behind a lot of the work that I do, but in particular, a lot of the reasons and behind the ML5 project. So, technology is not enough. Consider the technology. I should really move the mouse. Technology is not enough. Consider the technology as a tool which in itself could do nothing. Treat the technology as something that everyone on the team could learn, understand, and explore freely. So this is really important. Don't believe the hype. Is that an expression that people say? But it's easy to get caught up in the shiny technology stuff. But we have to remember that without human beings here on this planet, right? What's the point? So while I'm really interested and I get lost in my interest in just sort of numbers and algorithms and patterns and things like that, that's I think a sort of core value that I want to make sure I stay grounded to throughout any time that I'm looking at algorithms and thinking about how to use technology, how to teach technology, how to make use of it. So this is actually from an article from the ITP journal Adjacent. There will be a link to this in this video's description, which describes sort of the background about the ML5 project itself. At the end of this video, I want to talk about various people who made contributions, which I have here on this link, so I will do that. But let's talk about what is ML5. So in order to kind of figure out what ML5 is, I'm going to try to make some diagrams. This is gonna be great. I can feel it right now. So I'm gonna put ML5 right here in the center. Now, an important component of this discussion is a library called p5.js. Another really important component of this discussion, I think I'm gonna put it up here, is a library called tensorflow.js. And oh boy, another really important part of this discussion is just the library TensorFlow itself, as well as maybe sort of this thing called Keras, which I might refer to. So first of all, what is ml5.js? ml5.js itself is just a JavaScript library. It is a library of functions that you can call from your own JavaScript code. So again, I mentioned that I'm going to rely heavily on P5. P5 is also just a JavaScript library. P5 is a little bit of a special JavaScript library. Make a little heart there, a couple stars, because it is really, it doesn't necessarily conform to the standard patterns you might find in other JavaScript libraries. It makes a lot of decisions to be as friendly and welcoming and well-suited for a beginner as it can be. So one of the things you can do in P5 is you can write a function called setup, and any code that you put in setup executes the moment the program starts. You can write a function called draw, And any code that you put in draw happens in a loop over and over again. This is a standard kind of design pattern for writing a program that generates an animation, like a game or a piece of interactive art. So what I'm saying here is that my examples that I'm going to show you in these video tutorials are using p5.js almost as like the base starting point. And then I am also going to import the ml5 library. So I need to import both of these libraries. And I'll show you how to do that in the HTML file, which is something you'll see in the code examples. And once I have the ml5 library, I can start to do things like this. ml5 image classifier. So this is a function. Setup is something that's sort of specific to p5. Draw is something specific to p5. And then image classifier, well, we kind of know it's specific to ml5 because I had to write ml5.imageClassifier. So this is one thing I'm a little bit off on a tangent here, which is no surprise if you watched any of my videos before. But a lot of JavaScript libraries are namespaced, meaning if I'm going to call a function like the image classification function, I've got to say the name of the library dot that function name. So image classification, this is one of a common task of a common machine learning task, right? I'm going to say, hey, machine learning, here's some images of kitty cats. Here's some images of puppy dogs. Learn about them. So, and we're going to see how you could do that exact kind of task with ml5 itself. Okay, so this is the basic idea. Now, why am I talking about this? So here's the thing. If you just were wandering around the streets of, I don't know, Venice, Italy. I thought of that. Do they have streets there? No, it's all like canals. Oh my God, that's crazy. You're paddling through the canals of Venice, Italy, and you go to the little canoe, is that what they call it? No, the boat next to you, and you say, hey, do you know how to do machine learning? Somebody will probably say, oh, you just go use a thing called TensorFlow. Now, it's possible they say something like, oh, you just go use this other thing called like PyTorch, or I don't know, something else. But there are many, many examples of libraries, most open source libraries, that have a lot of functionality for common machine learning tasks. One of the most well-known ones of those is called TensorFlow. This is a project from Google. It is open source, and most of the time, if you were using it, you would be writing code in the Python programming language. Well, in my tutorials, I'll be writing code in the JavaScript programming language, not in Python. Well, amazingly, there happens to be this other thing called TensorFlow.js, also developed by Google researchers. I will include a lot of information about how you can find out more information about TensorFlow.js and the creators of TensorFlow.js in the video's description. But this is a version of TensorFlow written in JavaScript. Now, in truth, TensorFlow really, by the way, is really running C++ code. So even when you write your code in Python, it's just like running other stuff that's C++. But that's not the case with TensorFlow.js. TensorFlow.js is everything's happening in JavaScript. And ML5, and you could go and just use TensorFlow.js directly to do your machine learning stuff. And I have some video tutorials that talk about that. But ML5 is a project that actually that is a layer. It includes TensorFlow.js. So ML5 is a library where additional functions were added on top of TensorFlow.js to make certain tasks easier. And in truth, this is a low-level library, meaning if you were to use it directly, you have to really worry about things like memory management and this kind of stuff is, it's interesting. You can do it, but if you're just getting started and want to learn the basics of machine learning and experiment and play, this is going to be in your way. It's going to make things take longer. And so ML5 its goal is to make a lot of the things that you do in TensorFlow.js a bit easier and more accessible. Okay. Pause for a second. Oh, I went on way too long. There's a lot of links. I love how there's all these links for cloth in the chat. I'll come back to those later. Dan. Unfortunately, I don't have a good. I will be doing a live stream also next Friday, probably the same exact time. But you have to subscribe to the channel and click the alerts thing. That's the best way to know when I'm doing a live stream because you'll get a notification when I schedule it. Yo Soy in the chat asks, memory management on JS, WTF? Well, actually, it doesn't seem strange, but because TensorFlow.js is actually manipulating data on the GPU directly, you have to create these things called tensors, and then you have to deallocate the memory when you're done with them, and you can watch my other videos about that if you're interested. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so here's the other thing that I really want to discuss. There are three, I would say, I'm going to talk about three components of the field of machine learning right now. There are particular machine learning algorithms. One example of that is something that you might have heard of called a neural network. This is an algorithm to perform a machine learning task. There are many other examples of algorithms. There's something known as machine learning models. And in particular, there's this idea of a pre-trained model. Okay, so I want to talk about that in a second. And then, of course, we have this idea of data and data sets. So I'm going to circle this here for a moment. I'm going to put my stars next to it, because this is essentially where we will begin. You and me and the people from the future who are watching this video, I don't know, or who have time traveled into the past, I don't know, whatever. This is where we're going to begin. Now, a lot of machine learning tutorials will start with something like, and now we will look at linear regression. It's kind of similar to that thing where I was like, I had that line in the middle of the window, or the points on the right or the left, and we're going to do linear regression. So there's a lot of like mathematics and statistical components of machine learning algorithms. But one of the things that is happening in the world today, the reason why I'm hoping that this video tutorial and this ML5 library is important and useful, is that our lives are increasingly being governed by pre-trained models. Corporations train models to perform a particular task, to recognize your face, to turn the words you're speaking into text. There are many questionably ethical applications of this. There are also fun, artistic, and playful applications of this. So one of the ways I think to get started as a beginner to machine learning is actually not to learn all the math and learn how to train all your own machine learning systems, but to actually make use of some pre-trained models that are out there. For example, the thing that I'll start with in the next video is a model called MobileNet. This is a model that's been trained to recognize the content of images. But there are lots of images that I could show to that model that it will have no knowledge about, and other ones that it will weirdly have an incredibly obscure, detailed knowledge about. Why is that? Well, what was the data that was used to train that model? What was the algorithm? What algorithm is that model using? These are the critical, important questions that we, of citizens of this world, increasingly governed and controlled by software, need to feel confident and capable of asking. And so, by friendly and accessible or approachable ways of being able to experiment with pre-trained models, this is a good place to start. So this is where the tutorial series will start, and later, as I go forward, I will also hopefully look at what does it mean to create your own data set? What does it mean to use a particular algorithm with your own data to make your own model and save that model? So this is pretty much the overview. Machine learning is a thing. It has to do with numbers. It has to do with, the thing we're going to start with is something called supervised learning, really. So the idea of we're training a system to learn from existing known data so that it can work with new data. And that don't know what I was just talking about there. Look at that crazy diagram. All right, so machine learning is a thing. It's the thing people are talking about. We want to get some experience playing around with it, experimenting with it, understanding what it is. We're going to use this ml5 library. I'm going to show you how to import it. I'm going to show you how to import it into a p5.js sketch. And I'm going to show you how to start to use pre-trained models. And we're going to look at what those models do well, what they don't do well, where do they come from, why do they exist? Where do they come from and why do they exist, okay? So actually, before I go, let's look at a couple more things. And by the way, when I say go, you can just click next. I'll be in the next video. Or you could go to something else. But okay, I'm coming over here. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I shouldn't read the chat. Okay. All right, so I encourage you, before you watch the next video, what I would encourage you to do is actually just click around the ml5 website. That probably would have made sense for me to do as like a kind of overview. That would make sense. But really what I want to look at here just really quickly is these examples. And there's a bunch of examples here, and I'm gonna talk about all these different terms. What's a classifier? What's regression? What's an LSTM? What's style transfer? But a bunch of these there's a bunch of pre-trained models already supported, and this is where I'll start with in the video tutorials. We're going to look at pre-trained models for image classification. I'm going to look at pre-trained models for generating text, for style transfer, for something called pix-to-pix, PoseNet. PoseNet is amazing. I got distracted by the super chat. Because I don't know what, so I see this like large number, it kind of freaked me out. Thank you, Valerie, but I assume it's in some currency where it's a reasonable amount. Okay, would love to hear your talks about genetic algorithm and reinforcement learning, Q-learning. Yeah, I would love to hear that too. I'll see if I can get to that eventually. Let me come back and do this part over again. I don't know what's happening. So, all right, so I'd encourage you actually before you watch the next video, if you're continuing to watch these videos, to just check out go to ml5js.org. I would encourage you to click on, there's lots of stuff to read about here, but I'd encourage you to click on examples and go down and just try all of these. So you can see there's some pre-trained models that I'm going to be using. I'm going to do a tutorial basically about each one of these. Notably, like I'll mention one called PoseNet, which actually can take an image and estimate your pose, meaning where are your hands, where are your shoulders, where are your eyes, where are your hips. I might be getting that somewhat wrong there. But that's a pre-trained model, just like a pre-trained model learns how to classify the content of an image. Here's a pre-trained model that looks how to figure out where the human body is in a particular image. So we'll be looking at those. I encourage you to sort of click around here. I also want to just quickly go to this Twitter thread that I posted just to kind of give a little bit of a background and particularly credit, because ml5.js is not a library that I created. It's a project certainly that I have worked on, but it came from many, many other people. So first I'll mention ITP NYU. That's not the right Twitter handle for ITP NYU. Boy, did I really botch that, isn't it? Well, this is a little bit of an aside. Yeah, it's ITP_NYU. ITP NYU, that's the incorrect Twitter handle. Okay, so first thing to mention is, and I did talk about this, that ml5.js is a layer on top of TensorFlow.js. So all of the heavy lifting behind the scenes really comes from this library, which was many people are working on and contributing this library at Google and otherwise, but the project was initiated by Nikhil and Daniel, researchers at Google. The development was funded by, with the support of the Google Big Picture Group, and the People Plus AI Research Initiative, which is led by Martin Wantenberg and Fernanda Villegas. They've done a lot of wonderful projects about visualization and machine learning. The style and approach of our library really comes from the processing foundation. I mentioned the relationship. I guess I meant to say, like, the reason why the 5 is here is because of the sort of symbiotic relationship with P5. We've made sure the ML5 library, you absolutely do not need to use P5 with it, but it is fully compatible with P5. And the spirit of P5, I think, in its welcoming and inclusive sensibility is present in the ML5 library. And so as a thank you to P5, we've used the 5 there. Okay. Cristobal Valenzuela, who is also the creator of Runway ML, which you should definitely check out, started this project at ITP by creating a few examples with the deeplearn.js library, which is what became TensorFlow.js. Yining has done amazing work on porting style transfer, Yining Shi, and pix-to-pix models into ML5. This was really wonderful. Pikachu, edge-to-edge Pikachu. Yining hopefully will either be making her own videos that I will point you to. I'll have her in as a guest to go over some of these. Hannah Davis has done a lot of work around data collection and responsible data collection that I encourage you to read about and find on the ML5 website through an artist residency. Nikita, wait a second. Did I just have like so many mistakes in this? I don't know, why did I say Huggins? Her name is Nikita Higgins at ITP, right? ITP residence. Sorry, I'm like losing my mind. I didn't realize I had so many mistakes in my Twitter. I'm the worst. Hold on, just give me a second here. Just looking at my email here. How did I? No, it's Huggins. It's Huggins. I'm right. I'm totally right. I just like losing my mind. It's late on a Friday. I haven't, okay, great. Nikita Huggins, a resident researcher at ITP, really did a ton of work, project management work, vital, important work in shepherding the library through many different stages. The ML5 logo on the website is designed by Alejandro. Heiyun Huang also gave lots of support to that. Dan Oved actually ported the PoseNet model to TensorFlow.js and ml5.js. I'll be showing this in some video tutorials in the future. And the ITP adjacent journal, which I did mention also. Thank you to Stephanie Colton, who did all the editing for that article. And I encourage you, if you really want to read more about the background, instead of listening to me ramble, you can check that out. We had a lot of guest artists who came to visit us and give us lots of inspiration and ideas throughout the process. And then many organizations allowed us to do some of the first experimental workshops, School for Poetic Computation, iBeam, Creative Coding Fest, ITP Camp, and there have been many other contributors that you can find if you go to ml5js.org and you click on code and browse the GitHub repositories and see all the wonderful people who have contributed. So, this has been my introduction to ML5, the library itself, and guess what? If you made it through this video, congratulations, because in all the rest of the videos, I'm really just going to be coding and talking you through how to make certain examples, how they work, and what the pieces of those examples are. So thanks for watching this first video, and I'll see you in the next one, which the first thing I'm going to do is just make a simple image classification example using the MobileNet model. See you there, maybe. All right, I did my best. I don't know about this. Did my best. So I'm looking at my email now. It's the worst thing ever. It's so distracting. Ugh. Let me go back to the Slack channel. There's something showing through from your computer with the green paper on it. Oh yeah, this never works. That better? Oh, can't see it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to have, what time is it? 6 o'clock. This could be worse. I only started like an hour ago. Well, how will be a melon? The train sound is being requested. Oh, I have this. Sorry, it's the train. All right. So let me think about this. Okay. So I'm going to get this image of, whoops, how do I set the, I definitely want safe search on. How do I set it? There's a way for me to set it so that it's like images that I can use. I mean, the Wikipedia one I think will be fine. So let me go here. And then, let's see here. Oh, interesting. Let's see what happens here. Actually, I think, let's see here. Sorry, I'm looking for some images to use. Usually when I do image search, I feel like there's a way to specify under tools. Tools, there we go, usage rights, labeled for reuse. There we go, this is what I'm looking for. Okay. Well, where did I save the other one? Did I not save it? Oh, I didn't save it, okay. Okay, so one thing, all right. So let's just see here. My suspicion here, So interesting enough, this is a puffin, and what it thinks it is an oyster catcher. And it has a kind of little bit of sort of low confidence level. This is a toucan, and it's a toucan with a confidence of 99.99%. So my question to you, watching this, and I'm going to repeat this in a second, is why does it know this one and not this one? And what I'm going to do, sorry, GitHub, code, ml5 library, under source maybe, utils, ImageNet classes. Okay. Then I'm going to try to figure out what I need here. So I have this, I have this, I have this. What was I looking for here? Yes, MobileNet. And ImageNet. Is this what I want to look at? No. I feel like there used to be this web page that I would go to when I was like researching ImageNet. I feel like it was very different than this. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. 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 Looking at the chat here. Okay. Why is there often a redundancy with it as a single word and two separate words? That's a good question, Alka. I mean, I was going to show these are the literal categories. Okay. So the other thing I want to do is just do let's see if I can find I'm getting texts from home that somebody just sponsored. Because the lights are flashing. Welcome, __. Thank you, __. You're like Prince. This is what I'm looking for. That did not work. What am I doing? Save image as. Here. Let's try this. Wall clock. I love that. Okay, wonderful. And I don't know. Let's see here. Look at all these. Look at this weirdo. This will work. Snorkel, there we go. Okay, so this is exactly what I want to demonstrate. Okay. Okay. Hello, welcome to the first code tutorial that I am ever making. I did make this kind of like long-winded, rambling introduction to what ml5 library is itself, but in this video I'm actually going to make a code example that does image classification. So this is going to be our hello world, hello to machine learning first start. It's one of the easiest things you can do with the ml5 library, and it involves, this is very key, a pre-trained model. So this is not where everyone starts in tutorials about machine learning. A lot of tutorials about machine learning start with, like I said in the previous video, linear regression and the math and training this, and we're just going to use a pre-trained model. Somebody else made a machine learning model that knows how to recognize the contents of images, and ML5, they open sourced it, and ML5 is providing us access to it within JavaScript to use for the P5 library. So I'm going to write the code for this and talk about how it works, but let's first actually, if you just even want to just play around with this model to start with, you can do this right here on the ML5 homepage. So right here you can see this image of a macaw, and guess what? The MobileNet model labeled this image as a macaw with a confidence of 98.79%. Oh, this must be the best smartest machine learning model ever. It's like magic. It just knows everything. And in fact, I can grab this toucan and I can drag it in here. And look at this. It's a toucan with a confidence of 99.99%. This is so smart. So smart. I can't believe the MobileNet model is amazing. Now let's get this puffin in here. It's got to know what a puffin is. Look at this. The MobileNet model labeled this as an oyster catcher, and its confidence is kind of low. So what's going on here? Why is it not saying puffin? That's clearly a puffin. Well, first of all, guess what? A pre-trained model for image classification, forget about accuracy, has a fixed number of even things in the world it knows about. And one of the things that's really important if you're working with something like a pre-trained model is actually to know what's in that set. Now, it's not the most easy thing to find, but right here on the ML5 GitHub, there's actually this page of JavaScript code that shows all the things that the MobileNet model happens to know about. In fact, there are 1,000 classes. And you can see, like, this is crazy. It knows about a beagle and a bloodhound and a black and an English foxhound. It's like trained to know obscure dog breeds. But if I look for puffin, it's nowhere to be found. Oyster catcher, however, is in there. And if I were to look, like, what does an oyster catcher look like? It kind of makes sense. That's the thing it knows about that's closest to puffin. So if your project is all about puffins, you're not out of luck, and I will show you ways to train with your own data to retrain a pre-trained model. But right now, we're at this starting point. So birds aside, it's sort of, it happens to know a lot about birds. It happens to know a lot about dogs. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'm going to now give it this coding train logo. It thinks that's a wall clock, and it has kind of a low confidence. And that, I don't know, maybe because of what's here, the sort of flat nature of it, I can give it an image of myself. It thinks I'm a snorkel, which strangely is probably quite accurate. I'm kind of snorkel-like in more ways than one, but whatever. Maybe that's too weird. But the point is, it actually knows nothing about people, and it knows nothing about a lot of things that exist in our world. Who made these decisions? What's in the pre-train? Why are these classes written this way? And what was it even trained with? So first, let's talk about supervised learning. I'm going to erase the whiteboard. Do my magic erase the whiteboard thing that I like to do. I said I was going to write code. I will. Can anybody estimate to me, after editing, how long do you think that first intro to the ML5 video actually is? And did I go to, I wonder if I went, sometimes I get lost in my, I want to talk about the technical stuff. I don't know if I went in the right directions with that. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about for a second supervised learning. What is supervised learning? So image classification, what's happening with image classification? So the stage that we're going to do in our code, we're really just going to do the prediction stage. So the prediction stage, we have this pre-trained MobileNet model. The model expects some input, and it expects that input to be an image. So that's the input to the model. Then the model generates an output, and that output is a list of labels, cat, dog, puffin, etc., and confidence scores. 98%. Well, I guess do the scores all add up to 100%? I think they should. Well, 90%, 6%, 2%, etc. Okay? So this is the stage that we're doing. But how did we get to the point where we could do this ourselves? Somebody else had to prepare this MobileNet model for us. And the preparation of it is with a strategy known as supervised learning. So supervised learning involves a training data set. So maybe there is a data set. It's almost like you can think of it like a spreadsheet, right? It has image and label. So maybe this is the file name, like image1.jpg, and it's a puffin, except puffin's not in MobileNet. Image2.jpg, it's a cat, right? There's this big database, and how the data is formatted and cleaned and all that stuff, there's lots that goes into that. But essentially, there's a big database. Oh, I totally wrote way off the frame again. All right. It's out of frame. Come back to that. I'm gonna go back to the supervised learning thing. Where's my? I have these lines showing me where the top is. Apparently, they're way in the wrong place. So where's the actual top? Out there. Oh, that's crazy, crazy talk. Okay. Can you see that line? Hopefully I got it about right. So somebody had to do this with a process known as supervised learning. I'm going to write this down here, supervised learning. So supervised learning involves a data set. And this is often referred to as a labeled data set, meaning you can think of it as a spreadsheet, a table of images and labels. Essentially, there's two columns here. One column is a lot of examples of inputs, and the other column is a lot of examples of outputs. So I might have, cat.jpg. Oh, and that's a cat. And then I might have, kitten.jpg, and that's also a cat. And then I have puffin.jpg, and that's a puffin. So the idea here is that there is this existing training data set. This is a training data set. Okay? The data set is used to train the MobileNet model. It just says over and over again, here's this image, here's its label. Here's this image, here's this label. And the process of how that works involves looking at the error. The model tries to make a guess. Does it get it wrong? Since it knows the right answer, it can change its settings to try to get the right answer the next time. This is the process. Once that finishes, there's usually the model is tested with some other images that weren't used in the training set, and then a paper is written about it, it's published, or it might be something that a company sort of owns and keeps closed down and doesn't provide access to, but uses it in their own proprietary software. MobileNet is one that is public. So the important question for us to ask, if we're going to use this pre-trained model, and we're going to start trying to understand why it's giving us certain results and what is it good at, what is it not good at, is we need to know what was that training set. In this case, the training set is a database of images called ImageNet. So let's come back to the computer for a second. We can go here to the ImageNet. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I guess that's fine. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry, hold on. I specifically made this smaller. Okay. We can come back to the computer. Sorry, oops. We can look at the ImageNet website and look at this. ImageNet is a database of almost 15 million images, and that seems pretty good, right? In a machine learning system, for it to do a good job in the supervised learning process, it needs a lot of data. If we just have 10 images, it's not going to be able to do very much. There's some tricky things we can do that I'll show you later with small data sets, but in general, we need a large data set. So that seems like a good thing. But one thing you have to realize, like, what are the motivations of this data set? Where are the images coming from? Well, most of this data set was really put together for research into image classification. And in order to do that, it needs to use, well, images that are like in the public domain, that it can have access to, and frankly, almost all of, it's very likely that if you do a Google search for any of these, so any of the, let me just do this really quickly. So I go back to the labels. Let's look for king penguin, okay? So I'm going to do a search for king penguin. I'm going to go to images. I'm going to grab this image. I'm going to do save image as. I'm going to save it to the desktop as penguin. I'm going to go back to ml5. And then I'm going to go here and say, look, 100%. You know why it's 100%? I am almost sure that that image is in, I'm not sure about this, but go and look. That's probably in ImageNet. So a lot of these sort of like things that come up in a first search result that are in the public domain from Wikipedia, they're actually in that image database. So it's going to work really well with something like that versus the image of a puffin that's not in the database, doesn't even know what a puffin is. So maybe if we could find an image of a penguin that's not in the database, ImageNet database, it probably would guess it as a penguin, but we wouldn't necessarily see that much of a confidence. Maybe if we had a zoomed out picture with a lot more background noise, something I think you can try that's super interesting is to just download this image and like draw over it or change a couple pixels. What happens to the image classification afterwards? All these things you could try, and better yet, you can try them by writing your own code. So I think it's time, I've rambled on and on for long enough about what this model is. The last thing I'll mention is if you really want to dive deeply into the MobileNet model, there is a whole paper written about it. There's a GitHub repository. I will link to all that stuff. I encourage you to research this stuff and to think about it, to ask questions and to be critical. What are the motivations behind the creation of a model? What data was used in that model? And where might you want to use it or not use it? Okay, so all that aside, let's actually write some code to use the model now. So I'm actually not ready to do that, so this is going to be an edit point. So let me go to the desktop. I'll make a directory called ml5 videos. I'm going to go into it. What do I do? Bundle and then image classification. Did that work? Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. No. P5G-B? I don't know why I put it in quotes. I'm like losing my mind. I forgot. I used this P5 manager thing. Okay. Actually, hold on a sec. So I'm just setting up my workflow stuff, which I will talk about in a second. Image classification, index, this is all good. I don't need the libraries folder. Now, something I forgot about, I just want to check real quick before I make this video. Let's do a quick little test here. And then I'm going to have to back up. So hold on, 127. I don't recall. So let me just make sure before I go into this stuff that, click on Get Started. Yep, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to take all these images. I'm going to grab these ridiculous images. I'm going to make a folder called images. Put them in there. I can't remember whether it works yet with load image or if so I just want to test the code real quick before I do the tutorial. I'm going to say load image. Somebody, by the way, give me a heads up when it's like 7 o'clock. I should maybe do that animation coding challenge, just to have a little variety. Load image, images. What did I have? Puffin. Whoops. Puffin.jpg. And then I want to just say image 0, 0. So let's just make sure this works. That's a large image of a puffin. Okay, that's, shoot. Okay, and then let's just see. Just want to before I do the tutorial, I want to make sure I know what I'm doing. MobileNet, model ready. I think that's all I need to do. And then model ready. Let me just see, console.log. Model ready. Apologies to you live stream viewers because I'm kind of ignoring you right now, I realize. But I want to make sure that this works. This is not right. Let's look at the documentation. Probably should, oh, I did that right. Model ready. MobileNet. Just put this in here. Okay. Oh, it's just slow. I forgot. It actually takes quite a while. It's got to download the model from the cloud. I just wasn't patient enough. And then I want to say classifier dot classify image got results. I think this is how I do it. Error results. Console.log results. I'm going to do all this again in the tutorial and talk it through. Okay, classifier is not defined because it's not global. I don't really want to put it up here, but I'm going to. Whoa, what just happened? I think my connection is, oh, look, the connection is being all screwy. Okay. Get results SE. Got results. Okay. Last attempt, everybody. Classify is not a function. Okay. Classifier. Predict. I thought we changed it to classify, which is fine, but I have this memory of changing it to classify. That's fine, though. Yeah, so that didn't work. Pixels cannot be null. This is fine. I'm going to do it the other way. I want it to work with this is a thing we need to fix. Yeah. So I had a suspicion that this wasn't going to work. I will do this. Just want to make sure this works. Create image. Yeah. Okay. So it worked. So this is sorry for me experimenting with this. So what I was doing here is that P5 allows you to load images in two different ways. There's the load image function, which will actually load just the data of the image. I thought, do I have to say like, or there's the create image function, which makes an image DOM element. So, apparently it's only working with the DOM element thing. Okay, so I'm ready to go. I forgot what I was doing when I. Can I get rid of this file? So annoying. Let's see if it lets me do that. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're ready now to start writing some code. So what I'm starting with is very little. I have a file called, it's a text file called sketch.js, and it has some JavaScript code in it. And it's assuming the P5 library, and I have already, in fact, oh shoot. Got to start this over again. And, sorry. Okay, we're ready to write the code. Now, what I'm starting with is one JavaScript file with a little bit of code in it. Again, I mentioned I'm using the P5 library. The P5 library supports a setup function which executes when the web page loads, create canvas, makes a canvas, and now I color the background with the color 0, which is black. And if I go into the browser, I am able to see the results of this code because I also happen to be running a local server using a node server package. Now, there are so many ways that you can run a web page that's run in JavaScript, and you could use CodePen or open processing or something new that's going to be coming out soon, which is a P5 editor that you could use online that when it comes out, I'll link to it in the video description. But for right now, I'm going to use my workflow of having my own text editor on my computer and the P5 libraries imported in the HTML file. So here's the HTML file. The only things it's doing right now is it's referencing the P5 library and something called the P5 DOM library, which I need for some of the things I want to do. And then also, of course, my own sketch.js. I have a video where I kind of go through my entire workflow in more detailed steps. I will also link to that in this video's description. Now that that's settled, though, I can actually start to use ml5. So how do I use ml5? So right here, I'm on the ml5 homepage. The first place I should go is just click on this big Get Started button. So I'm going to click on that, and I totally clicked around to the wrong place. Let's try that again. I'm going to click on the Get Started button, and I'm going to go right down here, and I'm going to look at this. This is what I need. Now, I can download the ml5 JavaScript library file itself and include it on my computer, and I might want to do that if I'm going to work offline. But I prefer to just reference this particular URL in a script tag. And this is, at the time of this recording, this is the current version of the ml5 library, 0.1.1. Now, by the time you're watching this, it might be like 7.8.6. And if that's the case, this video probably means absolutely nothing whatsoever. But if it's relatively close to that version, hopefully this video is still helpful to you. All right, I will not make my joke about your brain being inside of the gelatinous thawing machine thing in this video. I've made it too many times. It's not even a joke. It's not even funny. Okay, so I'm going to put that in here. I'm just going to go back to my web page, and I'm going to refresh. It's still working. Okay, good. So now we have the ml5 library imported, and we can start calling ml5 functions. So one thing I might actually do is just go back to the ml5 website. Oops, sorry. Which is here, and click on examples, and I could go down to image classification, and I could start kind of looking at this code and copy pasting some stuff. I'm going to kind of type it out, and I have some of this in my head, so I can just type it out. But more importantly, probably, there are these examples which you can use to get started, but I might also suggest like just having the web page open to the reference page for a particular feature. So again, I want to have videos that go through all of these features, but let's go through the image classifier one. I'm going to click on that. Okay. So now this is the documentation. There's a little bit of an example here, and there's some information about the syntax. And if I get confused, I can refer back to that. But since I know some of this, having done this before, I'm going to just start writing directly into sketch.js itself. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is I need to create an image classifier itself. So I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call it classifier. And actually, you know what? I'm going to call it MobileNet, because I want to remind myself that this is not magic, that this is using a very specific pre-trained model called MobileNet. So I'm going to call my variable MobileNet. Then I'm going to say MobileNet equals ml5.imageClassifier. So this is a function that generates an image classification object. It's going to be stored in that variable MobileNet. And now it needs some arguments. So what goes in there? Now, the truth of the matter is there might be a variety of things you can put in there. At the time of this recording, there's really only one option, which is the MobileNet model. So I'm telling ML5 that I want to make an image classifier, and the first argument I'm giving it is a string with the name of the model. Now, in theory, as ML5 supports additional pre-trained model, I might get to type something in here, like a unicorn classifier. Like maybe it classifies all different kinds of unicorns. MobileNet. And then I need something else really important. I need a callback. Deep breath, deep breath, deep breath, deep breath. Okay, so wait, I got to stop for a second. Oi. The ML5 library supports callbacks, which is what I'm going to use in these video tutorials, and something called promises. If you don't know what a JavaScript promise is, I will refer you to my playlist about JavaScript promises, and you might look at some of the documentation. But if you're someone who already uses JavaScript promises, it's another way of handling asynchronous events that's slightly different but very similar to callbacks. That's something you can go and do on your own, or I'll make some videos about that too. But right now I'm going to use the callback methodology. So the idea here is I type in the name of a function. I could also put an anonymous function in there called model_ready. And I'm just going to put that function up here in the global space because that's going to be very simple. And I'm just going to say console.log model is ready, exclamation point. So the idea here is I am now creating an image classifier with the MobileNet model. It's going to take some time for it to load that model. This is not a small thing. Now, it's called MobileNet because it's actually a tiny model that can even run on like mobile phones. So this code would work well even in a mobile browser. But even the tiniest model is something that's got some size to it. It's going to take a little while to load. So let's go see how long. Go over here, into here. I'm going to hit refresh. Model is ready. So I don't know, that was a few seconds. You can see. Now, one thing that's interesting is like, where did it load the model from? Does the ML5 library have a copy of it loaded inside? Well, actually, no. So one thing that's important here is a lot of the pre-trained models, this is going to be different, but a lot of the pre-trained models that you might make use of in ML5 are actually loaded from the cloud, meaning some underground bunker of servers where the model file is stored. This, I believe it's coming from a Google server. So if you're not connected to the internet, this example won't even run. At some point it would be nice to support ways of running the MobileNet model offline. It is certainly technically possible, but the ML5 library, not all of the examples, but this example in particular requires you to be online. Okay, so the model is ready. So now what can I do? I can classify an image. Okay, woo, this is fun for me. All right, so let's see. I already have in this directory a bunch of those images that I was experimenting with. So let's just use, for example, the puffin, since that's our example. We should see, should have known that was going to happen. Let's start by using the puffin, since that's one that we worked with earlier. And I personally like to use in my examples stuff that doesn't work because it leads you to ask questions. And stuff just works. It kind of feels like it can start to feel like magic, and you can, it's important to think about why stuff and how stuff is working. Okay, so what I'm going to do in setup, I'm going to make a variable called puffin, and I'm going to say puffin equals create img. Now this is a particular function in the P5 library, right? This is now like create canvas is P5, create image is P5. This makes a DOM element, an image element on the web page that is that image. So if I were to reload this page, you're going to see, okay, it's in the directory images. So I need to include that there. You're going to see, there it is down there. Now I can do things like, if I wanted to have this all happen in my canvas, I could say puffin.hide, and then I could actually say image puffin, and this won't work, but it'll be interesting to think why for a second. And I want to draw the puffin in the canvas. The reason why it didn't work is, once again, things don't happen in JavaScript instantaneously. So it's going to take some time to create that image. I could give that a callback called like image ready. A lot of this stuff is unnecessary to the example I'm building, but just to demonstrate the idea. And then now I'm going to draw the image into the canvas. But that image is really like a big size, so I could resize it, or I could just like force it to be the size of the canvas. And there we go. So I now have a P5 canvas displaying my puffin image, and the model is ready. So now, once the model is ready, what can I do? I can classify the image. I can try to ask MobileNet what's in it. And the way I do that is with a function called predict. So you'll see different names for different functions in the ml5 library. Predict will come up often. It might change to classify by the time you watch this video, but I think it's called predict right now, this version of ml5. I'm going to say MobileNet.predict puffin, meaning I want MobileNet to give me a prediction of what it thinks the content of the puffin image is. And then guess what? That takes some time. It doesn't happen instantaneously, so I need yet again another callback. And I'm going to give it a callback called got_results. And again, I could do this with a promise if that's something that you're more comfortable with, but I'm going to do it with callback. And then I'm going to write this function called got_results. And now, if you've used P5 before, this is very similar to like load JSON. Oh, I want to load the data from this JSON file. And then you usually have an argument to the callback which has the stuff in it. The stuff that you want is filled that argument. But here's something that ML5 works with error-first callbacks. This is a JavaScript pattern where when you write the callback, you always must include as the first argument an error argument, an error variable, meaning the library is forcing you to check for errors. So in this case, I might want to say something like if error, whoops, not a new promise, console, and by the way, I can say console.log, but I can actually say console.error, and then otherwise console.log the results. So this is a little bit of extra error handling. If something went wrong in the prediction process, hopefully I would see that there. Otherwise, I'm going to see the results. All right. Let's see if this works. Model is ready. Model is ready. And then, oh, look at this. And here we go. Oyster catcher, and we can see this probability is 75. That is crazy. So this is really interesting to me. This got 75%. Then it also thought it was albatross and drake, different probabilities. Now, why 5%, 11%? Why is this different than what I got with the oyster catcher in the homepage of ml5.js? I don't know the answer to that. I will have to think about that. It's a different probability, but nonetheless, I'm getting a pretty similar result. It might have to do with like versions of something, and that the homepage is running a different version of something. But we can see this is the idea. Now, what I could do is I could go and I could say, all right, let me get the label is results. This, by the way, is an array with 3 objects in it. So I could say I want to get the first object, index 0, and I want to get the class name, right? Object0.class name. That's the label. And then I'm just going to draw them and say fill 0, text size 100, so 64, I don't know. And then I'm going to say text label, and I'll say 10 and like, height minus 50 or something. I don't know. I'm just putting it arbitrarily somewhere on the page, on the canvas. So let's run this again. We can see model loaded, and then it says oyster catcher right there. How thrilling. We have now run the MobileNet model, gotten the prediction for our image, and there it is. Of course, I could also do something like create a DOM element for the label. I could also get like the probability by saying equals results index 0 dot, and what was it called? Class name probability is the other probability. And I don't know if I spelled that right. And I could create 2 DOM elements using create p. And we could run this one more time. And now we're going to see that stuff down here. Oh, it's very, very small. Probability is not defined. Probability. Probability. Oh, prob. I named my variable prob because I got a lot of probs. Okay, so we can see here, there's the probability. So, this is the basics. Now you see, you could actually just go and use this in a project right now. I have a couple ideas for you. Number one is make a little interface, tries different images. Can you make one where you can actually drag and drop your own image like it does on the ml5 homepage? Could you make something where you draw on the canvas and it's trying to classify what you're drawing? Another thing you could try is, can you get it to classify what the webcam is seeing? And guess what? That's what I'm going to do in the next video. So there's so many more things you could do with this, but this is the basic idea. Try your own version of this, experiment, play around, try a lot of different images. But in the next video, I am going to basically take this exact example, but hook it up to the live webcam feed, and we can see it sort of classify images from the webcam in real time. All right, I'm gonna, and so if I'm doing this as a live stream right now, if you're watching this recorded, it's recorded, but I'm gonna check to see any questions and I'll answer those also at the beginning of the next video, okay? See you soon. Okay. So sorry, this is what happens after I live stream for like 2 hours, my nose starts to get itchy. I can't explain it. It's like a nervous tick. I got one more piece of melon. So I think what I want to do is I want to do the video thing, and then I want to try to do my coding challenge, which is the animated sprite thing. And then I think I'll be done for today. How do you feel about that? Is that okay? Why? Okay. I haven't really been following the chat. Does anybody have any important questions? My colors are out of range. For that syntax, you need to use promises. I don't know. Looking for any questions. La Conciencia asks, when do you upload this video? So it sort of depends, but the live stream archive will be available as soon as this finishes at the same URL that you're at right now. But the edited version of the videos will come out sometime next week, probably. Is your hair brown? I would say my hair is gray, but it used to be brown. Yeah, important question. Is it 2 hours cold coffee? That would be the answer. That would be yes. All right. Rustam is asking, can you use JavaScript inheritance today? I don't know if I did get that request. I don't know whether on Twitter or in a comment earlier today. I don't think I have time to look at JavaScript inheritance today, but that is something I would like to cover at some point in the future. The image ratio is different. Interesting. Will I use Three.js in a future video? I mean, in theory, anything is possible. I can dream. All right. Okay, so thanks for these questions. It's almost 7. See the super chats. Did I miss some super chats? Let me click here. No, that's for sending one. Top chat. No. I don't know how to see the super chats. If I missed any important super chat questions, I would be happy to answer them. And of course, I have heard of Mr. Doob. Okay. I just want to check something real quick. Okay. I've been on for 2 hours. The stream status is good. It's just interesting that I'm noticing that I have this whole interface for like analytics while the stream is running, and I'm kind of curious that I can just check it sometimes. By the way, the average, this is a good time. The average view duration of the live stream is 12 minutes and 42 seconds. So if you've been here the whole time, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. All right. So let me go back to the chat. I don't know where, I'm getting some messages here. I missed a lot of stuff in the Slack channel chat, so if there's anything super important, good night to those of you who are going to sleep because it's like really late at night for you. I've got another hour before I really have to go. I mean, I'd love to go sooner than that, but I'm going to try to get through what I said I was going to get through. Okay, so let's take a moment to do some stretching. I'm doing some stretching over here. Put on my waiting music for a second. Okay. All right, everybody. What's everybody doing this weekend? Anything fun? Do you call it the pickle or the floss? This is a constant discussion in my household. Is it the pickle or the floss? Which I clearly cannot do. All right. Hello, I am back to do another video about image classification with ml5. And in this video, I'm going to take, that's a puffin, by the way, not an oyster catcher. I talked a lot about why it says oyster catcher, not puffin, but anyway. I am now going to do image classification, but instead of seeing our good friend the puffin, we're going to see, I don't know if it's our good friend or not, probably just me, whatever is in the webcam of this computer. Ugh. Thank you, Barbone DeLucy. Appreciate it. Hello, I'm back. I'm here to do another video using the ml5 JavaScript library, a beginner-friendly library about machine learning. I'm going to use, again, the same pre-trained model called MobileDepth that I talked probably way too much about in the previous video, but instead of attempting to classify this image as a puffin, which the model failed to, it thinks it's an oyster catcher, which is not an unreasonable guess, I am going to attempt to classify images coming straight in real time from the web camera. So this should actually not take us very long, frankly, because I've mostly written all the code for it. So, pause. I realize I've got to be smarter about this, and I want to now make another copy of it, call it video classification, because I'm going to change the code, but I'm going to want to have it. And I'm going to go back, I'm going to hit refresh, I'm going to go to video classification. Says that, and I'm going to close this and this. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, instead of create image right here in setup, I am going to say create capture video. Then I'm also going to add the draw function, because right now, unlike with the image where I was just loading one image and then I was just drawing it once, I need to have a loop that happens over and over again, because what I want to see is the image of the video over and over again. Now again, I don't have to draw the video into Canvas. I could just have the video element appear on the page itself, but I like using the Canvas just for sort of like to kind of lead you to the water, when the water is the place where you can draw your own stuff and be creative in the canvas. So I like to I don't know if that made any sense, but This is what happens after 2 hours. I lose all ability to have any. Let me just start this whole thing over one more time. For no real reason, no reason other than my own neuroses. I apologize to those of you who are watching this in real time. This must be super annoying. I don't even remember where I left off. Okay, so the first thing I want to change in the code to turn it into video is I want to go and look at where I created the image. So I said puffin equals create image. I had just this static image. Now what I want to do is I want to use the p5 function called create capture. And instead of pointing to, I can't spell today, I can't spell every day, instead of pointing to an image file, the argument that I give the create capture function is just the constant video. Video means I want to create a video capture. It's going to default to the default camera that's connected to the computer. So just to be sure about this, I'm going to comment out puffin.hide. I'm going to change this. I'm going to get rid of this, which has to do with drawing the image. I'm going to get rid of the predict, comment that out, and I'm going to change this variable to video. So the only thing that I should see right now is I should see the video appearing on the page. So let's run this. First it's asking me permission. It wants to use my camera. I'm going to say allow. And then there it is. There's me. Hi, everybody. Look, I'm there. I'm here. I'm double Dan. Okay. There it is. Now, here's the thing. I could just use the video element there. It's fine. But I just have this like thing that I'm obsessed over and I feel is important. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the video. This has nothing to do with the machine learning image classification aspect, but I feel like you might have a chance to express yourself, to be more creative, instead of just using the default DOM element. If you actually draw the video to the canvas itself, this might allow you to do things like draw on top of it and other type of stuff. So there we go. Now I have the video in the actual canvas, and I'm hiding the video DOM element. Now, all I need to do is go, where did I do this? I want to, where did I call predict? I called predict as soon as the model was ready. Well, you know what? Guess what? I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to put video in here. And I'm going to get rid of this create p stuff because I don't want to mess with that right now. But the got results function can remain the same. So as soon as the model is ready, it's going to get the results and it's going to draw what it thinks the label is right there in the window. You ready? Okay, there's the video. Come on, model's ready. So, okay, we got an error. This is so good that we got this error because the errors you get when you use like ML5, they're really scary. Error, math, backend, WebGL, write pixels, pixels cannot be null. I mean, that sort of makes sense to us. Okay, so one of the things that I didn't mention in my introduction to ML5 is, I don't have that diagram anymore, but ML5 being built on top of TensorFlow.js. TensorFlow.js is doing all of the math using something called WebGL, which is a 3D renderer for the browser. And there's an interesting story as to why all those pieces fit together in this way, which I could talk about another time. But this is why you see these error messages quite often that have to do with like math backend WebGL. So let's see, what did I get wrong? MobileNet.predict video got results. Let video equals create capture video hide. You know what? Guess what? I completely forgot something important that I wanted to show you here. Now, I kind of want to fix this because this really should work. I'm thinking here. Let me just pause for a second. Why did this not work? Interesting. Hold on. I have a weird sort of, humor me for a second. Make sure that hiding it isn't the problem. I wonder if this is an ML5 bug. This is not actually the way to do it, and I forgot the way to do it, and I'm going to change the way I'm doing it, but I'm just going to, nope. Yeah, I don't. This should work, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I guess I could just ignore the fact that I'm trying to think if I need to go back in the video because of this error. I mean, I like that I got that error, but the problem is now I can't fix it. I'm going to have to, oh wait, hold on. I'm getting some messages in ml5 Slack. Oh, that's something else. Yeah, okay. No, this is unrelated. Unrelated. I'll look at that later. I thought maybe somebody was messaging me in a different place. I'll go back to here. So I don't want to yeah, where's the stack trace take me? Okay, right, pixels. You know what? I'm going to back up before I got that error. Right? I was right about, I'm going to back up Mathieu. So I don't know why that didn't work, but I'm going to do it a different way. Which I think, well, let me just make sure it works, the different way I'm going to do it. I will, yeah, so the way, this way worked. So I don't know why that didn't work, it should have, but I'm going to choose, that's not the way the example is written, and I'm going to choose to do it the way the example is written. I'll have to revisit that. If somebody wants to explore that a little bit and file an issue on the ml5-library GitHub repo, that would be helpful. Okay. So sorry about this, Mathieu. This might be hard to edit, but I need to figure out now when to call the predict function. And so in theory, I should just call the predict function right here with the video. But here's one of the nice things about ml5. Since ml5 knows about things like, hey, you might want to do this with a continuously running video, I can actually, when I create the image class, I'm going to take this out of here. Sorry, I'm going to take video out of the .predict function, and actually the way to do this is when I create this image classifier, I can actually say I want the MobileNet model to act continuously on the video. So I want to like hook those things up together. So I can actually insert the video, the P5 video element right there into the image classifier function. And then I can just call predict without any particular, I mean, I could always say predict on this specific image, but now the video is just linked to that image classifier and I can just call predict. So now, if I run this, oh shoot. How do I make this? So now, if I run this, I'm going to refresh it. There it goes. And we should see, there I am. I am a poncho. Or a cardigan, or I'm often considered chainmail. Once again, we're seeing the failings of the image, the MobileNet model in this particular case. Now, the thing is, it just did it once, right? It just called predict the moment the model is ready. But guess what? What if, how do I call it continuously? Well, you know what? Once it calls predict and it got the results, why not just ask it to do it again? So if there was a mistake, maybe I want to not move on, but if it works, I'm going to get rid of the create p stuff here and get rid of the probability just for right now. I can just do this. So what I'm doing here is this is essentially like a loop, another loop that's happening. When the model is ready, that's when I can start predicting. Then, once I've got the results, draw them, and then show me the next one. Oh, but guess what? huh, that's weird. It didn't actually show up. So this is actually a big problem. So I'm going to run this again. Well, hopefully this will work. It's going to, so weirdly this is working. I don't like that this is working. Let's see, this is something that it generally tends to get correctly. Knee pad. Really? Water bottle. Okay. This worked by accident, the fact that I'm seeing the text there. I probably shouldn't draw in multiple places. What would make more sense for me to do is make a global variable called label, and then and then have this, and have that set initially to an empty string, and then this drawing of the label should actually be right here in draw itself. So let's try this again. Let's make it a little smaller, and let's try one more time. And here we go. Let's see what types of things it can classify. And you know what? I should, this is, so I'd have to be more thoughtful about the design here. So let's do this. Let's make the canvas a little bit taller. And of course, I could just write it into an HTML element, but just for simplicity, let's see here. Let's see if this does the trick. I just drew, that's a little bit better. I should make the canvas a bit taller. I don't know why I was so stingy there. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is just draw a little area. There we go. Okay, so now, and honestly, I probably should take out this console.log. These console.logs can really slow things down. And I'm going to do this again. Last time. Here we go. All right. Poncho. Oh, let's see. Spatula. That's pretty good. Spatula. Okay. Doesn't recognize a bell. Magnetic compass. What about a train whistle? A matchstick. That's pretty good. Doesn't recognize a book. Broccoli. What about a marker? Paintbrush. I could be here. I would do this all day long. This video is going to be like 17 hours long. Pill bottle, knee pad, water tower. I think the green background is kind of likely confusing it. What else do I got in this room? Let's see. Accordion, piano accordion. So you can see, as long as it's something that's in there, right? If it's been trained on that particular, if I just happen to have a chihuahua with me, I probably could get it to recognize that chihuahua. So this is a fun thing that you can now play with. You can make your own project about, there's Google made a project like this called a emoji scavenger hunt, where you had to find certain things, get the image classifier to recognize it. So there's all sorts. Of course, it used some custom training there to make that work for particular objects. So I think there's a lot of possibilities of things you could explore here. But now you can really have your hands in there, play with the code, visualize things, draw stuff, and really experiment with what is the mobile net model, what works well, what doesn't work well. The net, one of the things that I really want to show you how to do, which I will do in a future video in this series, is use the mobile net model only as a starting point. So the mobile net model is a starting point, but I can then retrain it with some custom images and some new labels. So by golly, I could get that mobile net model to recognize puffins if I wanted it to. So thanks for tuning in. Is that a thing you say? Do you tune into videos? I don't know. It's a live stream if you're watching this now. Thanks for watching. Okay, and stay tuned. I'm just going to keep going through and show you more features of the ML5 library. What should I do next? I don't know. I think I might do, I'm not sure yet. Stay tuned. Come back. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Let's look for the description. It'll say next video. Was the error because I used the puffin? Okay. Let me just check. Simon is saying something interesting, which I'm curious about. I'm going to take this out of here, and I'm going to put it back here. This should do exactly the same thing. It's just the shorthand to put the video in the constructor. No, I don't know why that doesn't work. So this is supposed to work. It should work with the video. You can manually pass in the element, or you can give it, if it's a video element, you can give it to the constructor. So I don't know why that didn't work. All right, I got time for this coding challenge. All right. I saw it. Okay. So this, I think, concludes my introduction to the ML5 library. I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully, give me your feedback. I mean, was anybody watching this, the intended audience, knows a little bit of JavaScript, maybe used P5, never did any machine learning before? Do you feel like you're on your way to something, maybe? Speaking of which, can you cover convolutional nets? Yeah, so that's actually what I was going to do next in my TensorFlow.js series. So let me think about this for a second. Just to, oh look, I'm live now. So if I go, I don't know where this is going to live. So these are sort of like the non-ML5 machine learning playlists that I have. Afonso writes, I thought it'd be more complicated. Mwah! Yes, that's a good bit of feedback there. These are the more complicated ones. So it doesn't make sense for this playlist to be in here. I think this playlist is just going to be, actually I think it's going to just be a new playlist, and it'll be called exactly this. ml5.js, a beginner's guide to machine learning in the browser. Great. Okay. All right. So now let's do a coding challenge. Let's go into the weekend. Let's go get our evening herbal tea or beer or kale wheatgrass smoothie, whatever helps us to just feel like we're at home, we're relaxed. It's time for the weekend. We're going to get there. I'm going to get there, but I'm going to do a coding challenge first. You're going to have to give me a few minutes to get myself reoriented for that. So hold on, I just got to stop for a second. So Kaio asks, can you do some machine learning tutorial for beginners that are having the first contact with it? And Brockback asked the question. So that was the point of today. I can't say that I did it successfully, but right now there will be 3 edited video tutorials that come out of this, which are intended for people with their first contact with machine learning. Now, so that you can start with. Brack asks another question, which is, where should I start learning about machine learning on the Coding Train channel? Until those videos come up, this is a bit hard to find. Whoops, I need a better way of organizing all this. This is the perennial thing. But right now, if I go to youtube.com/thecodingtrain, scroll down, and go to this one here, Neural Networks and Machine Learning. Click here, and now I would say you could start with, you can technically skip session 1 and 2 if you want, and just start with session 3, which is basically an intro to the idea of machine learning. And you can see with a bunch of different algorithms and more of the math behind it. So, and then I'm talking an intro to neural networks. Then I make a doodle classifier. Then I look at TensorFlow.js. I make a color classifier. And then there's this neuroevolution thing, which links back to genetic. So this is there's a lot of material here. So this is where you would want to start. ML5 is in parallel to this without a lot of the lower level details. Yeah. Okay. All right, so now the coding challenge. Here, I need to open up terminal again. Animated sprite. Okay, is that right? I don't know what, I know why I forgot. It's G-B. Okay, animated sprite. Now I can go here. I can close the ML5 stuff. I can delete the libraries here. And I can, let's go back to 64480. And okay. All right, so I think I'm ready for the coding challenge. All right. Oh, wait. Where is the, I got to do something here. Downloads. I got to get the animation that I'm going to use, which is this. And actually, I'm pretty sure I just need to fix something here. And don't worry, I'll explain everything in a minute. Just getting myself organized. JSON formatter. Just want to make sure this JSON is right. Yep, okay. So I think I'm in good shape here. Yep, that's the horse animation. And great. All right. So this is the last thing I'm going to do today. I'm going to do a coding challenge to make a variable speed animated sprite that duplicates itself, something like that. And this is an example that I made. I guess I don't know why I'm talking about this now, but this was from 2011. This is like 7 years ago. This is a processing example. Okay. right. The weekend is coming. I see it in front of me. All I have to do is make an animated sprite. Okay, I'm ready. That was bound to happen eventually. Okay, got to cycle the cameras. What's the chance? Let me see. I should probably erase the whiteboard because I might want to use it. So apologies. You know, it's really sad. Sometimes I feel like for the live streams, I should just play whatever music I want and just let the YouTube copyright overlords just monetize the videos, because I just want to play interesting, fun music. But maybe I can eventually make a lot more. I had some time. Could compose some more original coding train music or get more submissions from people. I mean, I wouldn't play the videos in the music in the parts that were becoming the edited videos, but I don't know. Come on, I have this one too. Don't mind me, I'm just here erasing a whiteboard, and you're watching. Ooh, it's hot. It's getting warm. I wonder if it's still raining. Let's open the door just for a second. I don't think there's anybody here anymore. It's like, I can't even, my watch. It's 7:30 on a Friday evening. I wish I could make the camera like a roaming camera, and then I could go out into the hallway. I'm just looking to see if it's raining still. It looks like maybe the rain stopped. All right. Hello! Welcome to a coding challenge. In this coding challenge, I am going to make an animated sprite. This is actually a page on my website. I have a website, yes, thank you very much, with an example that I made apparently 7 years ago. You can download the code for this. It's made in processing, and it is loading a sequence of images and playing those images in sequence in multiple places at different speeds to create this running person thing across the screen. So I'm going to try to do something similar. I'm going to do it in P5. So I'm going to look at what does it mean to load a sprite sheet. What is a sprite sheet even? To chop up that sprite sheet into lots of little images, and then to play those images as a sequence and make an animated sprite class that you can use. And this is a very common technique used in games and all sorts of other stuff. So let's get started. Now, thank you to, hold on a sec. Thank you to Dragon Z P, sorry, who suggested that I use this wonderful image sequence of a running horse, which comes from opengameart.org. This is under Creative Commons license, so I need to attribute it, which I'm doing right now. Hello, I'm using this, but I can. So you can find a lot of free and open art that you can use here. So I'm going to use this. If I were to click here and just download the assets, we would see that it would actually come as separate images, which I find to be very nice, because I like to load them one at a time. But what is actually often done and more efficient is to actually, and I have this right here, to load a single image. So this is what's known as a sprite sheet. A sprite sheet is a single image that has each frame of an animation for that sprite. First of all, why is it called a sprite in the first place? Pause. I'm looking for a sprite in animation. Sprite computer graphics. Why is it called a sprite? Spriting. Arcade games. I cannot find it. The term sprite, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. In the category of you learn something new every day, the term sprite was first used in the graphic sense by one of the definers of the Texas Instruments 9918A video display processor. I'll let you continue to read this interesting Wikipedia page about the history of sprites. But the way that we think of sprites today, and in particular a sprite sheet today, is multiple frames of an animation within a single image. And this here is a PNG image, so it has transparency. So if I were to go, I should just go to the desktop and open this up. You can see it right here. Here it is again. So what is it that I want to do? What I want to do is load this image. I want to get each frame out of it, and then I want to show them one at a time in sequence. So this is not necessary, but again, thank you to Dragon, who submitted this, also sent me a JSON file. So this is actually quite convenient. This is a JSON file that actually has the information about where each frame of the sprite is in that image. It has its X, Y, and its width and height. Now it turns out this is really just a grid, so I could probably just do this mathematically very easily, but this is sort of nice that I can maybe load this in. So let's get started with this right now. So first thing I want to do is I am going to write a preload function. I'm using, again, the P5 library. And preload allows me to load media assets before the program begins, sort of saves me from callbacks and promises and that sort of stuff, which is useful, but I don't need that right now. So I'm going to say let sprite sheet be the variable for the image, and let sprite data be the variable for the data. So I'm going to say sprite data equals load JSON. And what was that called? It's called a horse.json. I've done something horrible here. And then I'm going to say sprite sheet equals load image horse.png. Just to make sure everything's working, let's draw the sprite sheet to the canvas. And in setup, let's console.log the sprite data. So this is the first step. And again, this is a bit of this is a lot of extra stuff. I could just load a bunch of images, or I don't necessarily need the JSON file, but this is nice. I like it. I like it. Okay, so let's go back. Whoops. And of course, everything's gone wrong. So it couldn't get horse.json, and it couldn't get horse.png. Why? Because it's in a folder. I always forget this. I put it in a folder called horse. So I need to add the directory path to the images. There we go. So we can see this came in. So I definitely have the data there, right? I have the position and the name of each element. And then why don't I see, so I'm trying to draw the image, and I completely forgot. If I'm going to draw the image, I've got to say where to draw the image. And I'm going to draw it at 0, 0. There we go. Oh. Time out for a second. I'm getting text messages. Okay. This is important. I have to. Hold on, everybody. Just give. I apologize. Bear with me. This is something I need to just deal with when it's. Okay. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to finish up here soon. Okay. Okay. All right. Read the comments. Dan, read the comments. What comments? All right. All right. Okay. All right. I don't know what's going on in the chat, but there we go. Okay. Okay. So next step. What I want to do now is I don't want to just display the entire sprite sheet. I want to display each piece of it one at a time. So let me go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to say let animation equal an array. So the array is going to be each frame, an image for each frame of the animation. So assuming I have that data, I can see, if I look at the JSON file, right, once again, all of the data is in a JSON array called frames. So I'm going to say, sorry, back into the code. I'm going to say let frames equal sprite data dot frames. I don't know if that's totally necessary. For let I equal 0, I is less than frames dot length, I plus plus. And then I'm going to get, sorry, I'm going to look at the JSON again. And now for each one, I want to know about the position. This x, y, width, and height is what's important to me. I'm having trouble. So I want to say let pos equal frames index I dot position. And then now, pos has all of the stuff in it for grabbing a particular image. So watch, I'm going to say let image equal sprite sheet. And I'm going to use a function called get. So get is a function in the P5 library that allows you to get part of an image. I could get a single pixel, I could get the whole image, I could get a section of it. And in this case, what I want is this section of the image, the x and y with a particular width and height. Then what I want to do is just put that into that array. So now, this is really all I want to do is loop through every frame, grab it out of the sprite sheet. Now again, a convention might be, this is one way of doing it, which arguably might not be the quote-unquote best or most efficient way. You can actually just leave everything in a sprite sheet, and later I could just be like, when it's time to draw stuff, I could pull stuff out. But I'm choosing to, in setup, just pull out the sections of the image. And I'm going to console log that array now. And we can see I have an array with 7 images in it. So now, if I were to say draw image animation index 0, that's all I see is that one. If I were to say draw animation index 2, I see that one. So this is working. And guess what? Animation frame count, whoop, and then can't read property width of undefined. So you saw it for a second there, and then it went away. Why did it go away? Well, it went away because there's only 7 images there. So I could say modulus animation.length. Now, somebody, I got this great YouTube comment the other day saying that I'm saying modulus and modulo incorrectly, and I don't remember what it was. Time out for a second. Where was that? I'm going to find that comment. Where was that comment? Hold on. I got to find that comment. Comments. Okay, I'm looking. Okay, sorry, it wasn't that long ago, so I'm just scrolling through. I'm going to find it. This is obviously incredibly high priority. Oh, come on! I'm gonna find it. It's not that long ago. I just saw it earlier today. I guess I could search. There's a thing where you could search. Let me do the search. I'm so silly. Search comments. Modulo. Search. There it is. Okay, this was on recommend sequence part 2. Okay. Let's find this comment. Whoops. Okay, I found the comment. The operator is called modulo, and the number following it is called the modulus. Okay, and Golan Levin came on the coding train and did a guest video about that operation. But what this operation does for me in the code right now, the modulo operation, is it gives me a modulus value that's always between 0 and the end of the array. So it's the remainder of division. So this frame count modulo animation.length, watch what this does. Now I see that animation repeating, and look at that, look at it, it's the horse, it's just running and running and running and running and running. Great, so I completed part 1, but I'm gonna just keep going, this is one video, of this coding challenge. I've got the animation playing it out. But here's the thing, what I want to do now is I need to figure out some way of encapsulating the idea of this animation into an object so I could then make many of them. So what I'm going to do that, and I think what I want to do, I think I want to make a new JavaScript file. I'm going to call it sprite.js. And I am going to, in index.html, I need to make sure that I refer to it. And then in sprite.js, I'm going to make a class called sprite. And then when I create this, when I create the sprite with a constructor, I want to give it a few things. I want it to have a speed, and I want it to have it, I'm going to give it like an animation. So basically, that animation will be the sequence of images that it's supposed to play, and then it's also going to have a speed, which is like how fast does it play it through. So the idea here being that now I can say, let me just do a variable called horse. And I'm going to say horse equals a new sprite with these frames of animation and a speed of 1. And then here I'm going to say horse.show. And maybe I want to say something like horse.animate. So like our next frame or something. I don't know what makes the most sense, but I'll just call it animate right now, and I'll put it after. So this means if the idea of this sprite, if I want to show it and animate it, in the sprite class, I need a show function, and I need an animate function. Now, if I'm going to have a show function, that's basically going to be exactly this. But the point here is that I want to get away from using frame count. And so what I want is to have another variable that just keeps track of the index, like where am I in the animation? So I can use that instead of frame count, this.index. And this, by the way, has to be this.animation.length. And this has to be this.animation.length. And you know what? It would be really nice to have a length variable. I think because I'm going to probably need that a lot. So let's just make it That just like makes the code a little bit nicer to look at. All right, so this should work. And then in animation, I just say this dot index plus plus, or plus equal this dot speed. So the idea here is speed is controlling the speed of the animation. So I've basically taken the idea, I've created an object that has stored in it an array of images. That's the animation. It has the length of that array. It has speed, how fast should it cycle through them, and where is it currently. So now, if we run this, and I've got some error here. Sprite.js line 10. This dot animation, this dot index. So let's just look at some stuff here to see what's going on. Oh, animation is 1. Oh, I put things in the wrong order. This is a very common programming error. Look at this. I was doing this quickly, and in here I say horse equals new sprite animation comma 1. So the image sequence is first, the speed number is second, and in here I put the speed first and the animation second. So I got to reverse those orders so that they match, and then there we go. We're fine now. So I've got to where I was before, but the interesting thing here is that now, guess what? This sprite can have an X, and it can have a Y. And so it could be, basically, I could be drawing it at this dot X, this dot Y. So then when I create it, I could say I want it at 100, 100, comma 1. Now it's there. This leads me to be able to say, okay, now I want to have horses. I want to have a bunch of horses. I'm going to say for let I equal 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus. Horses index I is a new sprite at 0, comma I times 50. And then I want to say for, and I'm going to use a for of loop, let horse of horses. And I'm going to go through all of those and show and animate all of them. So now, look at this. I've got a whole bunch there. They're all right there together. Maybe I want to just space them out a little more. I could be thoughtful about the math of this. Oops, I must not have saved. There we go. So this is good enough for right now. I've got a bunch of them, but look at now, here's the thing. What if I don't want them all to be matched up at the exact same speed? What if I were to say, let's make the speeds random. So let's make the speeds random somewhere between 0.1 and 1. I think that's actually the fastest speed, that number 1. So let's do that. What happens? All right, I immediately get an error. What is the error that I get? It cannot read property width of undefined, sprite.js line 12. Well, the issue here is by definition, if I go to sprite.js line 12, look at this. This dot index modulus this dot length. This works just fine if the index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if it's a whole number. If it's a whole number, it can apply the modulo, sorry, I said it wrong again, operation, and it gets another whole number, which is an index into an array. Arrays only have whole number indices. But if I start saying plus 0.2 or 0.3, I'm going to get these numbers that aren't valid indices into an array. Well, this is actually quite fixable. And let's just do this. Let index equal floor. So all I need to do is floor this dot index before I apply modulo, and then I can put that in here, right? So floor is an operation that just eliminates the decimal point. I want the index itself to go up slowly by a decimal point, but I only want to show, I have fewer frames. I want to show the same frame a bunch of times. So if it's 0.2, it's going to take 5 frames for it to get all the way up to the next whole number. If it's 0.1, it's going to take 10 frames. So this should do the trick now. And we can see, look at this. They're all going at different speeds. And they're running in place. I might as well have them move now, right? So why not also have them move this dot x plus equal this dot speed. And maybe the speed that they're running doesn't really feel right. So even though it's the speed of going through the index, I probably should increase that by a scale of like 5. Let's try that. This looks a bit more realistic. Now it looks like they're sort of moving at speed. And then I could obviously do something like if this dot x is greater than width, then I want to say is this dot x equals negative. I want to kind of put them off the screen. Negative this dot animation index 0 dot width. So I'm just pulling. It might make sense for me to make that a variable, like this dot w equal this dot animation index 0. This is assuming all the images have the same width, and that way I can just say put it off screen here. So let's run this one more time, and guess what? I now have, I believe, a recreation of that example that I made, where I have a bunch of horses all moving at different speeds through the animation. And now the world is my digitally simulated virtual reality oyster, so to speak, in that I could grab any sequence of images. I could have different sprites have different image sequences. I could start designing the background. I could have them, I could apply physics to the way that the XY position moves around the screen. I could start having collisions. The point is that anything that I've made in all my nature of code or other coding challenges that have an object moving around the screen, the simple games, this would allow me to have an animated sprite. And I might even further want to encapsulate the idea of a sprite. Oh, this would be a great place for me to talk about inheritance. So I could then make other objects that extend, that's an inheritance term, sprite. So I could make horses that are animated sprites, or frogs that are animated sprites, or puffins. Puffin doesn't really do that. So anyway, I'm a little bit off the rails here in my discussion. Let's think about this. What could you do? Now, one thing is, what would happen if I gave it a negative speed? I think mine would break. So this is a little challenge to you. Could you make this work with negative speeds? Right, it breaks. So this example that I made doesn't support going through the animation backwards. So try to add that. Could you make something like this that has different animations for each object? So there's maybe 5 things, but they're different. Each one has its own animation sequence. Could you do that? So could you design your own sprite sheet? So don't even do any code, make your own sprite sheet and run it with this code exactly. So there's so many things you could do. Please share with me in the comments on Twitter or at the link to the coding challenge URL. In this video's description, there's a way you can submit any versions that you make on your own. Thanks for watching this coding challenge animated sprite. What did I? Oh yeah, slower. Add a rotation to it. No, incrementing by any integer will be too fast. All right, I think I'm good. I think I'm done. Sorry, I have to go home. But I will see. Did I miss anything super important there, or is this challenge good enough for right now? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm good. Everybody says I'm fine. Great. So one thing I need to do is, before I leave, I've got to upload the code. I'm going to hit stop recording. I'm not going to hit stop streaming just because I want this to go to disk. All right. Is it possible to use ML5 with Node? Ask Motol. That's a good question. It's definitely possible to use TensorFlow.js with Node, and I don't know about ML5. I don't know. I don't believe we're supporting that yet, but that's a really good question. Okay, so next week. I don't know my schedule for next week. Friday evenings have been working, late in the afternoon have been working pretty well for me, so I might expect that to be the time next week. I would love to squeeze one more 2 live streams in next week. It might only be 1, I would love to squeeze in 2. So because I'm actually going away again for a few weeks. So I'm going to be gone for about 3 weeks of August. So August, things will really slow down. I have been doing an accounting of my live streams to make sure, like again, with the crowdfunding stuff, my commitment is to 4 live streams a month. And some months I end up doing more and some months less. So I guess I have to look over the period of a year. But this is my second live stream of July. I'll certainly get 1 more in next week, which will be 3. In August, I might only have 2 or 3. But I'm pretty sure that I've done a lot more in May and June. And I can also catch up in September. So anytime anybody feels like I'm not doing enough, you can always let me know. Again, the complaints office is down the street in Lower Manhattan near the courthouse, apparently. Yeah, so thanks for, I don't have anything else to say. I would love to hear your feedback on ML5, love to hear from things that you make. I am going to go. But I did get a new sponsor. And this is the Andreas Tager. Thank you so much for the sponsorship. Mwah! I appreciate it. So sponsors. You need to look in the community tab, and there are sponsor-only posts there that have a link to a Google form. So enter your information in that Google form. I will mail you stickers, and you will also get an invitation to the Slack channel. I am doing another mailing, hopefully, of stickers. Oh, I have to send an email about that. Hopefully next week. Although if you sponsored today, I don't know if I'm going to get you into that mailing because I already sort of put together. But anyway, I don't know what's happening with that. But you'll get an invitation to the Slack channel and you'll be able to ask there. So thank you, Andreas, for sponsoring. It's very much appreciated. I am looking for a volunteer to design emojis for the chats for the sponsors to use. That's like a YouTube feature. And icons for like right now it's like this circle with these 2 lines. So I guess it's supposed to be like an S. But anybody wants to volunteer to help design more emojis and icons, just let me know in the Slack channel or on Twitter @Schiffman. You just send them to me. I will upload them into the system. All right. So that's that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It is so appreciative. I'm excited to be going once again on another machine learning journey with the ML5 library, doing more coding challenges. Oh, little foreshadowing. This is the coding challenge that I'm working on. This is one I actually have to prepare for. I've been like obsessed with this idea of like visualizing 4D and then 5D and then 6D. There's a wonderful video, LeosOS, this is not going to be right, that I watched the other day. No, let's see, Tesseract. Yeah, this video, Understanding 4D, the Tesseract by LeosOS. This is a great video, I highly recommend. This is a nice one too. I watched both of these. But I need to figure out, I think I'm going to do this in processing in P3D, and I want to do actual like the rotation, the matrix math for rotations. And so I think I need to make a couple video tutorials about that. I need to kind of like figure that out a little bit. So that's coming soon to a YouTube channel near you, Coding Challenge 4D Rotation Hypercube Tesseract. With then the challenge to the viewer to do a 5D one. All right. Thanks, everybody. I will see you next week, at least once, maybe twice. Subscribe and click the alarm bell if you want a notification. It will show up when I schedule it on YouTube. I usually try to do that 24 hours in advance, but it'll be one day next week. Okay, goodbye. I'm going to hit the stop streaming button, which is over here, and then I'm going to go home and begin the weekend. Please enjoy your warm, cold, caffeinated, alcoholic, decaffeinated, non-alcoholic beverage of choice. Relax, take some deep breaths. Look outside at a view, read a book, get away from code for a little while, and come back to it when you're feeling refreshed. I need like a catchphrase. I'm supposed to have a catchphrase. This is my catchphrase. Choo-choo. Where do I click stop the live stream? Oh, here it is. I'm now clicking the stop streaming button. Goodbye.